Thank you very much. I want to make a comment on this cultural imperialism palaver we were talking about. I believe that we are flogging a dead horse. See, there is no way we can ever get back to those periods when we were isolated, the mainstream of events in the world. There's something, a monster called globalization, which will even make things worse. My view is that you have to sit down and articulate for yourself how you fit into that phenomenon. Identify your area of advantage. You cannot stop it. I don't like it, but there is nothing you can do to stop what the lady was talking about at the end. Internet is here. You can't run away from it. And you can't stop people from projecting images which they think are more conducive to that perception of the world around them. And I think it's a mistake always to think about culture in static terms. Culture is not static. I don't want to get into a big argument here. It's not static. Culture is dynamic. In fact, the cultures that survive are the ones that are able to adapt themselves to changing conditions. And that is a real challenge of African culture. The thing Ivor talked about in Cuba, I thought it was clear from his presentation. It went there in a particular form, but it was able to generate in Cuba itself, on the Cuban soil, an ideology that has sustained it all along. That's exactly how it functions. So the real challenge is for us to say to ourselves, how do we fit into this global, they used to call it global village, I understand it's now called global hamlet, because it's becoming a hamlet. How do we fit into it? And this is where tourism, I'm sorry I will end on this note, this is where tourism becomes important. We've said in this room and elsewhere that it is in the area of tourism that we have competitive advantage over every other part of the world. You can make a lot of money from tourism. You can project your culture through tourism. This is why whatever one says about the present government in the Cross River State is doing an excellent job to use history, use culture, use artifacts. And some of you know I had an accident, so I've not been around. I was surprised when I came. I was told that my friend Ekpo is the chairman of the Cross River Tourism, etc. They are now finally waking up that you cannot really isolate tourism from the mainstream of scholarship in the area. And of course, it symbolizes that union of the two. We cannot run away from what is developing in the world. We are part of the world. What the Americans have done very well, and there are many studies on this subject. Americans for a long time appropriated African cultures. They took it from us and made it into their own. Ivor talked about what's jazz? What is jazz? What's jazz? Jazz is basically African culture, but it's the best known US culture in the world. Sometimes they try to deny the African roots, but now I think everybody has agreed that you cannot run away from those roots. What is Argentine's Tango? I lived in Argentina for 6 years as ambassador. Tango has its roots in Africa. One can go on and on and on and on. They have appropriated our cultures and made into their national cultures. National culture of Cuba is African. National culture of Brazil is African. And I can go on and on. But we have not been able to do that ourselves. So the key is collaboration, to get back to what Jill said. Collaboration to see how we can carve a niche out of ourselves in this hamlet. We cannot resist it. Ekpo is a unique example, what is happening in Cuba, of how this can happen. And you can take it. I don't want to get into, Etubom used to be a Methodist, but I think he dropped out of the way. I don't want to get into that argument. But basically, the forms of religion, the forms of Christianity, the forms of traditional religions, we are confusing the forms with the substance. When you get away from the forms and get into the fundamentals, they're very similar. Very, very similar. This is why Ivor said, I think earlier, one of the most important things about African religion is that it was inclusive. You didn't have the attitude that mine is superior. It was open. And that was a real advantage. I'd never get tired when I read what Hobart said about Ekpo here. And Hobart himself used Ekpo to spread Christianity. These are facts which are known. I think we need to do a lot of work ourselves and to integrate ourselves into that global village. We cannot resist it. We will not be left out of it. We don't take time, they will appropriate again whatever we have and make it into their own. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank Jill Salmons and Ivor Miller for giving us some food for thought this evening. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here. I hope the Museum Society will have the pleasure of welcoming you here again at the subsequent delegations. Thank you all for coming, and good night.